Well, no, but pushing me out again. I have to. He's so anxious. After I made that nice long, how everything's connected. This is connected too. So John wants to keep all the YouTubes that I made. Wants me to sign a contract. He wants me to get out this second, and because I'm making him so anxious. And so to continue this contract, I'm going to put it, continue the YouTube here. And John has an issue with caffeine and his weight. And he's a Libra, so he tips this way. And he's like a ping pong ball. I mean, he goes back and forth like like a ping pong ball. And I'm really the only person he's ever really been able to talk to. I mean, I don't know. He goes there for, I don't know, a few days here and there. And then he comes back, instead of staying someplace and making his life. I mean, if he wants to be with his kids, he should go and be with his kids. I had a friend who got divorced, a really bad divorce, but he wanted to be there with his kids. So, he would get a camper and drive down the road. They could go to different countries, and he would go and be with them. Meaning, if you want to do something, you can do it. If you want to be successful at movie making, you can do it. People do it. Yes, some people have breaks, some people know people, all the above. But if you want to do something, you go do it. And John Boy, not so much. So, Freud said, when you do the same thing over and over and expect a different outcome, you're nuts. So John does the same thing over and over again. Now, I look at myself and I say to myself, I could be doing the same thing, trying to help John, and all John does is throw me out. So this may be one of the last times. I mean, like I said, he's my friend. I don't give up on my friends. And he actually begged me. I mean, what was quite interesting, he sends me this, last week he sent me 81 texts in one day about how miserable he was and how he wanted me to come back and how he wanted to drive to, would I drive with him to Texas and all the above. And it was getting cold there. I'm living out in the middle of the woods, and I saw frost on the road and the water that comes to my little toilet has to go over, 2 football fields of hose. It's not going to be easy to live there. And I have no real money. Meaning I spent the last $160 I had to come here because he wanted me to come here, And this morning he got upset because I brought all the food I had, and I've been making him meal. I got here Thursday, and I made him a really nice Thursday night dinner, Friday breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and a nice breakfast today, and a nice lunch today. And anyway, now he wants me out right this second, which I'll go tomorrow. I can't go today. It's too cold. It's going to be dark. I can't see now. So that's, the bottom line. And I'm going to keep talking to you and see how many people you show up there, so you can be the witness of our contract. So anyway, it's sad, It's sad because John. I keep saying John's I'm a social scientist, so my ulterior motive was that John's my observation tool, and he really does represent what's going on our planet, whatever is in the stars or, they're putting in the water or whatever, it's responding to John. Let's see. He's not coming. I thought he'd be down by now. So, I kind of left you. Where did I leave you this morning? At Oh yes, I left you at the Una Bear Gallery, and Jane's mom and all of the rest. Hi there. It should be interesting. John's throwing me out, like in 20 seconds. I can't go. It's getting dark. Tomorrow morning I'll go. But he wants me to sign a contract where he owns all the videos that we've done together, right? Because I've been here and I owe it to him, right? And so I'm going to try and get some cash out of him and stay one more night, and that's it. And then pretty much not going to have much to do with John. May come back, and because I still got stuff here I need to collect. So that's going to be part of the contract too. So, yes, I was doing a Bear Gallery, and living there with the Hollywood Squares and Jane and Phil and their two children, Una and North, and the grandma, Jane's mom. And we were pulling into Mayish. It was rainy, and I had a friend of mine. His name was Gary Blue. He was a great painter. He came from Utah, and he went to Cal Arts, and he was going to be the next big thing. And he was a great painter. But he was like John. He really couldn't talk to people, couldn't deal with people. And there was a crew of us who built things. He was the painter, I was the electrician. Jody was the plumber. Willie was the carpenter. Bariah was the mason. And, one of us would get a gig, and then I know this, we always worked together. And it was great. And in the 70s, yes, hi guys. Again, it is going to be John and me, but this one is going to be like the divorce proceedings, and it should be interesting. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm putting it straight onto you guys to watch and be, and that's the YouTube way. But before he comes, I'll keep telling you the story of all things are connected. Just like John is connected. And I keep saying John is this Masonic or Messianic, canary in a coal mine. And it should be fun. This should be interesting. It's like live TV. Me not just telling stories, but, John being the star there too, So, so Gary, he read this, Friday was our day. We'd work real hard on a project, and then at 3, we'd kind of kick back and drink a few beers and get relaxed, and then, leave, after 4. And we'd read newspapers, we'd talk, we'd, be social. We were a community. And so Gary was reading this article about how there's a whole society of homeless people in the guts of New York City, in subway tunnels and sewer tunnels and power tunnels. And so he actually went down and got himself down in there and couldn't get out. And for a week, he was lost in the sewers and in the power grids of the city. And he was like, hanging out with the mole people. There's millions, not millions, but thousands of. And Monday shows up and doesn't show up to work. And Tuesday and Wednesday, we're starting to worry, where's Gary? And then Friday, we get a call from a policeman, and it says that our friend Gary is in the hospital, and could we come, right? And identifying, because he's like lost his mind. So we did, and we went there, and Gary was, because he was in shock. He had been living underground with the mole people for a week, and he finally found himself out of there. And so, but after that, Gary was never the same. And he got a couple of breaks. We had shows, because we had the galleries, and we tried to push everybody. And and Gary was great, and he just couldn't do it. He couldn't deal with the people. So he tried to kill himself. So he didn't. But Gary was an extraordinarily handsome guy. And when he took the pills, it messed his face up big time. So, you know, it was sad, right? So he came back, and we were all supporting him, and his girlfriend was behind him, and he just went down. And so she left him, and the few of us who were his friends tried to stick with him, and then they all left except for me. And people would say, "Why are you with this guy? Come on down, John." And I said, "He's my friend. I don't give up on friends." Anyway, the third time he tried to commit suicide, he really messed himself up. And I went and saw him. I said, "Gary, what are you doing?" And he goes, "I have to kill myself. I just no one loves me." I said, "Why do I keep coming here?" He said, "Well, you're my only friend." I said, "Right." I said, "Gary, how long have you known me?" "I don't know, 6 years." "What do I do?" "Well, you work really hard, and then you go someplace for about 5 months to a year, and then you come back and we work." And I said, "It's called a vacation." So in all those 6 years, have you ever left New York? No. Did you ever stop doing what you're doing? No. You need a vacation. And it's like a light bulb goes on over his head. I need a vacation. That's what I thought I could do with John, just take him on a vacation. Anyway, so as soon as he gets out of the mental institution, it's raining really hard. And Jane's mother comes and says, "There's a crazy man out front, and he's in a hospital robe, and he's screaming the words vacation." And so I go, "It's Gary, what is going on?" He goes, "We're going on vacation. We're going on vacation." He said, "As soon as I got out, we're going to." I said, "Okay, Gary." So I went and got some clothes. I called up Amtrak. I took, we took a train from New York. I got him some clothes. Hi. So, John, you're writing the contract, and
Yeah.
I want you to read it to me.
Okay. What are you filming it?
Yeah. This is my version of the contract. So read it.
Okay. Albert D. This is for you
Right.
to sign, and I have signed it already. Okay. I, Albert DiMartino, agree to allow producer John Birmingham to use my image, likeness, and voice and exhibit, distribute, exploit, and show in all forms of media across the universe, specifically referring to all videos we filmed together or John filmed of me in Roanoke, Virginia, from July 1st of 2016 to, I didn't know exactly when we started filming, so it said from July 1st of 2016 to October 20th of 2018. Albert DiMartino is to receive 33% of all that the videos earn and have earned already. We've covered it so far. Or all that the audio and let me read this so it's not showing my face. I don't know why you're filming.
Because this is my
Or all that the
my
audio
representation of the contract.
Okay, is it a live video or something?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Albert DiMartino is to receive 33% of all that the videos earn or all that the audio and or video earns above and beyond production and promotion costs by producer. I'm producer. This 33% also covers Albert DiMartino as an original storyteller, writer, and improv actor and his creative ability in this agreement. John will link every video with Al on his
Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob channel.
John will link every video with Al on his YouTube channel to Al's personal YouTube channel, and we agreed in video for that for the Sensei Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. It may take John until October 27th, 2018 to link every video to Al's channel because it takes some time to put the end video links and stuff. John also paid Albert $300 in cash today and has allowed him to stay as a guest at his home during the above mentioned dates for many days without paying rent. I didn't say which days, how many days, anything like that. Signed in Roanoke, Virginia, October 20th, 2018 by John Birmingham, producer, and Albert DiMartino, actor.
Right. But also, I put in a good deal of time and effort in helping you out here and cooking you food.
There's
and
all sorts of stuff like that. But
right,
I paid you thousands just in 2017.
Right. So the only thing I ask is that I will leave tomorrow morning. I can't leave tonight. It's too cold. It's going to be dark. I have no place to go.
A hotel? That's why I was giving you $300.
No, 300 is like going to be for getting me back to Tennessee. No, just tonight, John. I have no place to go tonight. So yes, I'll agree to all of this. I will leave tomorrow morning.
But it's like annoying. It's annoying.
You can't be compassionate enough to let me stay here just a few hours till tomorrow morning. You stay upstairs. I'll stay in there. I won't make a peep.
Are you going to get along as friends?
Yeah, I'm always, John, I am your only friend. But I'm the guy who always is your backstop, who's always thinking about you. No, I'm not annoying. You're annoyed. There's a big difference. I'm not doing anything to annoy you. When this whole pot got stirred, you came down here. I was in that room sleeping.
All you have to do is go to a hotel still light out.
No, it's not. I have to pack up. I won't be leaving here until it's just till tomorrow morning. I won't say anything to you. I'll stay in there. You stay upstairs. No big deal. Be compassionate. All of the times I've cut you some slack,
Why are you filming it?
Because this is our contract.
And you want to stay here the whole night?
Yes, till tomorrow morning, and I'll leave tomorrow morning. Because it's going to be dark in I won't even have the car filled.
Are you going to be nice?
Yes, I'll be very sweet. Very nice.
Be kind to me.
Yes.
As far as getting along.
Yep.
It's going to be
how it normally is.
Really annoy me or something.
No.
You're just going to be kind to me, or not try to do things to aggravate me in ways that are annoying.
Yep.
Okay.
Just till tomorrow morning, and I'll be gone. I mean, my leg hurts, my body hurts. Just let me get a good night's sleep, and tomorrow morning I'll be gone. I'll be all packed up.
Okay, and so that's it, and you'll sign the agreement?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you want to sign it?
Sure.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, you can stay. Okay, it was really starting to annoy me. You signed it?
Yep.
That's your real signature?
That's it.
He signed it.
Yep, signed it. Yeah, actually, let me get a good image of this.
Oh, you got an initial there because I marked something out in two places and then wrote the new thing in.
And you need to make a photocopy of this for me.
All I can do from here as a
not at this minute.
I can take a picture of it with a new 4K iPhone and send you the perfect image.
Okay, you can do that. Yeah, that'd be nice. But the other thing you might write on this contract is that I still got a lot of stuff here, so you can't throw it away. And I'll come and help you move it out, which I was going to do today, but so you can live with that until I can get it out.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, because you've lived with it. And Valhalla, I'll chew on that. I was going to do upstairs and the little room out in the back.
I'm just going to take a picture of this.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
This is how you can deposit checks these days.
Yeah, I know. I
wasn't expecting you to film all of a sudden.
I'm making a documentation of the contract.
Yeah. Yep. I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything weird, but he was telling me you wanted to take all the videos down or something.
Yeah, why not? You say they weren't making you any money.
Okay, I'm gonna text you
the thing. Yep. Mm-hmm.
They're timeless works of art.
I know they are.
Your storytelling.
Yep.
I'm gonna email you the.
So John, you've been wanting me to travel across America, and we do a Jimmy and Donald Trump video. Not going to happen. No more videos.
You don't want to?
Right. No. Why? Because you just said I annoy you. You couldn't be with me. No. You could take that off the things. Unless we write another contract that states that, A, you give me a big chunk of change up front, so when you do throw me out of the car, I can get home. and B, I get, 45% of whatever those make.
I texted you the agreement.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay.
I texted it to
Yep,
you.
yep. So forget about that. And, me going anywhere with you, you stop, don't have to text me or ask me, because you've asked me 1,000 times to do it. And every time I'm ready to do it, we go through this little thing.
Go across country. I don't feel I'm just eating food and you're like trying to but you're filming me and stuff.
It's a documentation of our contract. But I'm, again, kind of putting it down in the contract that I'm not going to have any more anything to do with you, period, unless you can get a grip on this anxiety thing with me. Because I don't do anything, you tell me that it's your, I'm here and it's causing your father to hate you because I'm here. And I mean, things that I have nothing to do with, and I only come here to try and help you.
I thought you said you're trying to be you're going to be nice.
I am being nice. This is the end of the contract. So hand me over the cash and go upstairs, and then I'll be nice to you, because you won't be
I
here.
already gave you.
Oh, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't give it to me. No, you didn't give it to me, John. No, you didn't. No. No. Oh, he gave it to me. Oh, yes. Yeah, no, he didn't give it to me. So I'll leave tomorrow morning, and you can go upstairs, and I won't say a peep. I'll just continue. I was telling them a story about Gary Blue.
The team that they were starting to really watch all the videos.
But John, you just throwing me out. I have no place to go, and you told me I could stay the winter, and now I have to stay out in the woods. It's like, how can I depend? I mean, every time I even think that you're gonna treat me okay, you throw me out.
I feel like I shouldn't be on camera. I'm really tired.
Then go upstairs, and that'll be that. You don't have to stay down here and talk to me. I'll go back to telling my story.
Did you press end video?
Nope, I'm going back to my story. So there Gary was at the front door of the Una Bear Gallery, and he was in his hospital gown, and he was drenched like a rat. And poor Jane's, Jane's mother had somewhat gotten accustomed, because, she's living in an art gallery with 20 artists, and, other than Jane, me, and her grandchildren, the other 18 or 19 or 17 or how many people were in the Hollywood Square thing that Jane made for them to stay in. And Jane's mom kind of got that. And also, Gilles was down below with the Fluffers, and the mobster was dating her.
This contract doesn't mean that we have to not get along. We might get along really well, and you might stay.
Yeah.
Okay, what if all of a sudden we get along, you stay?
Okay.
But right now, I felt like it was really annoying me, and I felt like I wanted you to get out of the house, but you signed the contract.
That's what I signed. So was that a ploy for me to sign the contract for the videos, instead of me having you take them down?
I have no idea what you mean by that. I'm just going to walk out of here.
Okay, see you later, John. See you in the morning. Yep. Anyway. So Gary was at the front door in his dressing gown, drenched like a rat. Get him in, dry him off, get him to take a shower so he doesn't get pneumonia. And I give him some of my clothes. And, he wants to go right then and there. It's raining like cats and dogs. And I said, Gary, so we're going to hitchhike at Holland Tunnel, because I told him all my stories about hitchhiking. I said, Gary, it's okay. So I call up Amtrak. I make a reservation, and there's a train leaving in an hour and a half from Penn Station to go to D.C., and then from D.C. we'll figure it out. And it was a Sunday, and that is a really nice. That 11 a.m. Train ride, at least then, was really nice. They actually had breakfast with, linen and silverware and nice coffee and eggs rather than sandwiches and plastic containers. So we go down there after saying goodbye to everyone in the Unibarrett Gallery, and we have our little bags. And so my clothes consisted of, I think I've told you guys about my friend who made paper from clothes. And in New York State, when you sell clothes, they have to be like you can wear them. They can't just be crappy, dirty. So he would get these bales of clothes that had been, cleaned. And they were like the size of a Volkswagen. So I would, every time you get one of those, I'd go over there and I'd pick through the pile and, get clothes. And there'd be nice suits. There'd be like orange jumpsuits that say property of county jail. There'd be all kinds of stuff, So I had a big pile of clothes, and we picked through them and put them in, I had some army duffel bags, and we were off. And we're on the train. We get there nice, and we have a nice cup of coffee. They got the open bar, so we're having some whiskey. And the only other people on the train were a group of black musicians, jazz musicians, who were going to play for Richard Nixon. And so they took out their music, and, all the guys working on the trains were black too. This is still, the majority of the porters are black. I haven't been on an Amtrak train probably since then. But anyway, we're on the train, and these guys pull out spliffs, and everyone's smoking. And the train guys don't care, and the jazz guys are playing great music. And, so we're having a party. We're having a great old time. And these guys got more drugs than a pharmacy, right? And they got this one guy's got like his medical bag full of everything. And so I'm talking to him, and I have my little medical bag, but it's full of herbs to heal people. So he's like, what's that? Oh, that's golden seal. What's that? Oh, that's yarrow. Oh, what's that? Slippery elm, and we're like two pharmacologists talking to each other. Anyway, so he goes, I got some mushrooms here that no one likes, and I've been carrying them around forever, and why don't you have them? So I go, well, okay, I don't know. And he goes to the guy, and he puts them in the grinder and turns them into dust. And then I pour them into I have these like little film canisters that have all these herbs in that I made tinctures and things with. And then I put it in my little medical pack. And so, if they open one, they're all going to look like the same stuff. So I have some gelatin caps. So, I cap up about 10 of these. And a few of the guys and me pop them. Gary pops. I mean, Gary's feeling no pain. I mean, he's smoked about 10 spliffs and, had a couple of glasses of really good bourbon. We had a nice breakfast. And it's raining, through Philly. It's raining, through Delaware, raining. And as we pull into D.C., the clouds break and the sun comes through in lines. It's like God is saying, "Hey, boys, welcome to D.C." Now, I've lived in D.C. during the anti-war times. I was a anti-war protester organizer. And so and that's another story I'll tell you. We get off the train, and Gary said, "What are we going to do now?" And I said, Oh, look, it's 12:45. If we rush, and there's this like loop that if you go up to the top, and there's like the FBI building, this building, that building, the Capitol, the White House, and if you get to that place and buy the ticket, it has a little trammy thing and takes you to all these places, right? So we make it there. We get our little ticket. We get on a little trammy thing, and we hit the FBI building. We shoot a machine gun. We go to the Justice Department. We go to the Supreme Court. We go to the Capitol. We go to the White House, and we end up at the National Museum, and we go through that, and then we walk out that onto the mall, and we walk up to, and it's now, meaning when we left New York, it was cold, it was rainy, and now it's sunny and it's warm, and it's about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and there's a stage set up, and right in front of the Monument. And we go there and we get ourselves a little bratwurst and a beer, and we sit down on a park bench, and who plays but Jefferson Airplane? And they start off with, their revolutionary, thing about America, And so we're listening to that, and the sun is going down, and they have some fireworks, and Gary starts to get scared because it's going to be dark in like right now, about 20 seconds. And Gary basically is freaking out. And I said, no, don't worry. And so we walk over to the bus terminal, and I go, hey, what's the next bus heading south? And the guy goes, well, there's one going to Durham. I said, oh, that's great. We'll go to Durham. And I said, is it a local or an express? And the guy goes, well, it's a semi-express or semi-local. It's not like just going to stop at 4 places. It'll probably stop at 10, but it's not going to stop at 40. So I said, okay, that sounds great. So we get on the bus, and and there's not too many people who get on D.C. And so I get on, and Gary goes in the back, and he's tired, and he lays out, right next to the toilet where there's the back thing where the motor is. Instead of having 2 seats, there's 6 in a row, right? And he just stretches out on that. And I sit down, and I look around, and, there's some old ladies, there's some army guys, and there's this really interesting woman. Kind of looks between a gypsy and a gypsy is kind of, very pretty. And I look at her and I go, can I sit next to you? And she goes, sure, have a seat. And so I sit down and we start talking. And so I've been in Ireland, right, with the crone. And through the crone, I've met a lot of gypsies. And I go, so are you Roma? And she goes, oh, you know anything about gypsies? And I said, well, a little bit. And I tell her that I was in Ireland and that I'd gone to school at Trinity, and that I, lived with an herbalist up. And then she goes, oh, she goes, I'm a woman of the woods. And I said, well, the woman I was with, she was also a crone. And she goes, oh. She's smiling. I said, so did you spend any time in Ireland? She goes, no, not really. I've just been in the United States, but, all of us Roma, we're all one family. And who'd you stay with in Ireland? I told her, and she says, oh, Uncle Patty, so all things are connected. So we're talking and we're talking. We have a very nice conversation. I'm not hitting on her, and she's liking the fact that I'm not encroaching on her space, and I'm being respectful, and I'm talking intelligently about things she knows, and that I'm, deferring to her as the expert rather than me saying, oh, I know everything, and just, occupy the conversation, which I can do. I try not to. But that's one of the things that we griots do. But anyway, so we're talking, and we're now, we've gone out of D.C. We've kind of gone, we're at the top part of North Carolina, and it's maybe 3 a.m, and we're supposed to get into Durham around 6, and we're going to stop at a spot where we're going to be there for 20 minutes, and there's a place you can get something to eat or use a real bathroom or all the above, and pick up some, other passengers, with connecting buses. And so we pull in that place, and she and I go. Gary is just knocked out. He's, and the bus driver isn't telling him he can't sleep like that. But he tells me, if we get a lot of people, he'll have to, sit up. And I said, don't worry, Gary's cool. So the girl and I go and we pick up some fruit. They're selling fruit. We get coffee. I get an egg sandwich. She kind of looks a scowl at me because she's a vegetarian. She goes, "You know about eggs?" I said, "Yeah, but hey, no one lives forever." So, so she basically, we get back in the car, and the bus kind of fills up, and Gary's asleep, and these two attractive college girls go in the back and kind of wake Gary up and basically turn him into a sandwich. They set him on either side. And I'm not paying that much attention because I look back, he seems to be happy to be sitting between two attractive college girls. And I go back to talking to my friend. And so we're talking about all different kinds of esoteric, because I belong to a number, the Theosophical Society, the Jan Society, the Fort Orange Society, a lot of esoteric, interesting groups. And she knew a few people I know. So we're having a grand old time. And then we pull through this little town in North Carolina. We're maybe an hour and a half from Durham. And basically, we're talking, and it's getting hot. So, and the air conditioning doesn't work. So she's got the window all the way open. Everybody else on the bus is asleep except Gary and the girls, and they are going at it in the back, And the bus driver keeps looking up in the mirror and shaking his head and looking over at me, and I'm going like this. And my friend, she looks back there and she goes, "Your friend really needs that." And I said, "Yeah, I know that." So we're talking, and we stop in this stoplight, and this, Mustang, GTO, a muscle car of some sort, pulls up right next to her. Now, this girl is very attractive, and from the angle that these guys are looking up at her, they see more of her, curvature than me. And I'm not looking at that. I mean, I'm looking at her face, and they're looking at something else. Anyway, they start saying some really, really, coarse things to her, right? She just kind of looks down at them and does a sitchin. You know what a sitchin is? It's a symbol. And it's a shamanic or alchemical or magical image. And you draw them on things. And you can draw them in the air, right? And or you draw them on a wall, and it's part of a curse or unlocking curses or unlocking things. If you read the book 9 Doors, you'll have an understanding of that. And if you are Jewish, and a mazia, which is those little things that they put on the sides of the door, that's a sitchin. It's like a prayer, right? So anyway, she's doing this, and they're looking at her like, what? And they're revving their car. And we're both, them and us are at the front line of a red light. And they're, and all of a sudden, you hear the clutch go in, and their car takes off and shoots by us. And as soon as it gets by us, a tractor trailer T-bones them out of sight. And I look at that girl, and she just kind of goes like that, meaning she did that. She was doing this sitchin of like a curse, and God knows what happened to those guys, because that was, a big, gigantic tractor trailer coming off an interstate doing about 50 turns green, and we go, and the traffic is, we can go, but we can see smoke and fire, and the truck is still going, and he's smashing that car those two guys were into all kinds of stuff that were not nice. And that gave me this like, okay, I'm glad I've been really respectful and nice to this girl. So she's like, amused how like, I am about what just happened. And I said nothing really about it. And she said nothing real about it, except her smiling and giving me this tilt of the head. And she basically said, you should go back and get your friend. We're going to be in Durham relatively soon. And this guy's going to let me off in the little town that I'm from, and my daddy's going to be there. So better that you're back there with your buddy, and I have the space to get out easily. And if you could, get my bag down for me. I said, sure, sure. So I kind of got the bag down, put it in the seat that I was in, and kind of went back next to Gary. And Gary is like, he is at it. These girls and Gary are at it like bunnies. And I go, whoa, kids, we're about to get into Durham, so we should straighten ourselves up. You've been having fun for the last 3 hours, so it's time to, throw some water on yourself in the bathroom over there, and I'll just block the way so the rest of the bus doesn't see you, getting dressed. Anyway, so that all happens. The guy stops. The girl gets off. She gets her stuff. She turns around at me. The bus driver is very nice. The other people he let off like that, he let them stumble in the dark thing. But this guy turns the lights on, even though everybody else is sleeping. Oh, what's that? He's being very nice to this woman. And she turns around, smiles at me, tips her head again, and says, it was very nice, sharing the bus with you. Have a good trip. And so she gets off the bus. And guy turns off the lights. The kids are dressed. We sit down. We're getting our bags together. About half an hour later, we pull into Durham. So we get out of Durham, and Gary said, the sun is just coming up, and Gary's going, so what are we going to do now? And I said, well, we're going to, either take a cab or hitchhike or walk to Duke University, which is about 15 miles that way down 42. I used to go to school there. I have a whole bunch of friends there. And I had 3 best friends from grammar school going to school there. My best of friend, Ralph, or Buzzy, and I go, and another friend of mine. And and when I was there, so Ralph was a guy I knew since 3rd grade. And he was the handsome one. He was the popular one. He was the football star. He was everything. Right? Me was just me. And but Ralph had no money. So he got into Duke because he was a pretty good student and he was popular. He had all the things Duke wanted but the money. So there he said, okay, we can give you a scholarship, not a full one, because you're not going to really play football for us. I mean, you're not that good of a football player, and you don't do any other sports. So, yeah, we want you here. But, get a job, get some money, and, come back in a semester or two whenever you get your cash together. And, again, we're going to give you half of what you need for the first year, and then we're going to give you more. If you do well and are, the kind of student we want, we'll give you more the next, and by junior year, we'll pay for your senior. So that was the kind of deal he made. So he had to prove to them that he was going to be their kind of guy. So I was traveling around trying to stay away from my draft board because I'd gone off to college, and I got, that's a whole nother story, because I was already doing what all my college professors were teaching us to do, and they were like somewhat jealous. And they go, why even here? Because you got the job that I wish I had, And I was like, I have to be here because if I'm not in the school, they're going to take me off to Vietnam. So anyway, and Marion Tulin, who ran that, who was on the board of Lincoln Center, who I worked there through Lester Polikoff, who was an amazing scenic designer. He was Joe Melziner's best boy, and Joe Melziner invented modern theater, invented the Fresnel, invented the Lico, and you name it, Joe Melziner, brought technology into theater. So, which, gave heightened effects of theater. So anyway, and I had a girlfriend who I truly loved there, and then when, that didn't work out, I kind of, bailed. And I didn't want to, I didn't want to break the law, so I was just making myself scarce so no one can find me. Didn't leave any forwarding addresses, didn't have a credit card, didn't have driver's license, nothing you could really find out where I was. And this was 1969? Yeah. And so I had gone to Duke, and I had met a woman who was really brilliant. She was working on her PhD in parapsychology, and she had a medical undergrad. She had 2 BAs, in law and medicine, and she got into psychology. She got her master's in an MSW, and she was the one who said, "Forget any other, unless you get a PhD or a MA. I mean, medical degree in psychology. The best degree to have is a master's in social work. You can do anything." And she was at Duke because she was doing research in parapsychology. And why she hooked on me was that I was doing the same, but not as scholarly as she was, with the Theosophical Society, and also the U.S. Psychotronic Society, and I was making machines, Tesla machines, that you could put yourself in a field and you could see, John goes, "Is there ghosts?" Well, you could see ghosts and spirits and shadow people because they're just dimensional folk, just right next to you, just in another kind of edge of a dimension. And whenever you see anything on the side, I mean, that's, you see that little black thing, and then when you look at it, it's gone. Well, that is what this is. And so there was a company called the Seal Corporation, and it was out of Stanford, California, and they were doing the kind of research that the doctor in Captain America's first movie was doing. And they were studying all of parapsychology and all the things like guys in India who could put swords through their cheeks and then pull them out, and it would heal within an hour and not even leave a scar, and all because they wanted to be able to take a good soldier and turn them into indestructible. Make them so they could run hundreds of miles without getting tired, get shot and still keep fighting, all of the above. And that's what Captain America was. He was that character. And the Nazis had done similar things, and a good deal of the SEAL team were Nazis. Again, we're going back to everything's connected. So she's working for those guys. I'm telling her what I've done, and she goes, "Wow, that's kind of fun. What do you think?" She's showing me papers she's writing, and I'm giving her and she's like, "Well, yeah." And then we kind of spark up, and we get intimate. And so she's a good-looking woman of about 22. She's really smart. I mean, she has 3 degrees already by 22. And they picked her out and brought her to Duke because she was from California too. And she didn't fit in with anybody. She wasn't a preppy, and she wasn't a good old boy, and she wasn't any of that. But I was, she... boyfriend, soulmate, research cohort, and then she brought me to her Nazi boss, and I told him, and she had told him of me, and I had told her that I had made sensory deprivation tanks that were quite exotic, and so he said, "What do you mean exotic?" And I kind of, said, "Here's a piece of paper, up on a chalkboard, piece of paper. I throw in the equations, the design parameters." And he goes, "That's exactly what I'm looking for." And I built him not only were they tanks, and not only were they full of salt water where you floated on top of the water, and not only were they 98.6, but I had aniconic shapes glued to the ceiling of the tank so it nullified any sound. You heard nothing. No hums, no dings, no bumps, no nothing. And then I surrounded the whole thing in a Faraday cage. So you did not get any kind of electromagnetic anything. So you were cut off from every bit of yours. And I also put air with nitrogen through it so you smelled nothing. So you didn't smell, didn't taste, didn't hear, didn't see. All your senses were cut off, which put you into those states where you can go other places. And not only that, I had on the inside, between the Faraday cage and the tank, I had scalar amplifiers. So I could manipulate the scalar currents going through your mitochondria. So this guy loved me, and so he would, I was like the only guy who understood what he was talking about. And he thought of my girlfriend as like his daughter that he never had, because she was like the smartest one of all the other chuckleheads that were there. And so we were the mighty three. And so we had the best of times, because we were doing real science. And so I'm there, and so I have like got myself in Duke. And so I'm living with some friends of mine when I'm not with her, because I was a smart guy. She's got this little room, a dormitory room basically. So it's a little apartment, but it's a room, and I know she needs her space, so I was real good at sensing it. When she really wanted to get down, I was there. When she needed her space, I wasn't, and I would stay at my friends who were in the frat. And so I was, it was like not, it was like, and these guys were smart. This wasn't just the preppies. These were like, a couple of those guys were, she actually liked because they were smart and they were physicists and they were this and that. So this was the smart frat, but they were still like the Animal House. They were still like off the hook. And most of these guys were a little older and had done things before they got to Duke. So we're having a great old time, and she likes the fact she can come over there and hang with the boys and be one of the frat guys, because they were like, they weren't like looking at her that she was a sorority girl that they could pluck like a plum. She was one of the gang. So this was one of the best communities I had lived in up until then, right? And I lived with some pretty great people, Allen Ginsberg and the gang. And, the folks over at the Fillmore East, that was my other community, and Herbert Burgos Studio and the Living Theater. These were all great communities. But this was, people my age who liked esoteric things that I was into, and we had all of the toys we wanted to play with. So anyway, and the college, and I like when really interesting people, that's when I met Joseph Campbell. He came to lecture there for a few weeks. I met him there, and then I went to study with him at Georgetown, and that was years later, and that's another story I'll tell you. And there were other really interesting folk of high quality who were professors there, and I would just go sit in their lectures and their classes. And they would give assignments, papers, and because I wasn't going to school, I had all the time in the world to do really good research, and I had all these really smart people to read my papers before I gave them to these guys, the professors, and then I'd just hand them in, and they'd go, whoa, and then they'd say, like one day, hey, you there, who's sitting in the back all the time, stay after class, and they would say, who the heck are you? Anyway, so I was there a semester and a half, and by that time, I was the dude, like straight out of the movie and the Great Lebowski. I was the dude. People called me dude. Why do you think my Gmail is the dude awake 42, right? And that's another story. So I've gotten Duke University really well wired, and that part of North Carolina too. So because I had been at High Point, being a photojournalist with a friend a few months. That's how I got to Duke. I was in High Point first, and once I got too well known there, I needed to hide in plain sight. And what better place to hide in plain sight but a college university with about 20,000 students, So I'm at Duke, and my friend Ralph Buzzy, he finally shows up. He's made enough money, and he finally shows up. And he shows up, and we all get him at the bus, and we bring him in, and he had a crappy little room, but no, you stay at the fraternity, which is like being at a nice hotel. And so we're all having a great old time, and then the semester's going to start in a few days, so he goes and gets, checks in and gets all the lists of books he needs, and so we all kind of stroll over to the bookstore. And now what Ralph has done in the 2 semesters that he put off from going to Duke was he worked for somebody where he learned to be, how can I say it? And he was none of the above, but he hung around with those guys enough to think he was one of them and that everybody else were like meat puppets that he could take advantage of because he had been. And so he's in there, and so he's getting his books and stuff that they paid for and hits on a list, and he's picking this up, but he's starting to take things, stick them in his pockets, and things like, $25 gold pens and stuff like that he thought, oh, if I have this, people think I'm rich. Anyway, that school had what was known as the honor code, and it was really strict. And, you could do certain things and get away with it, but stealing stuff like from the bookstore, he'd be out on his butt. So I'm seeing him doing it. Nobody else, all the other guys are like talking, blah, 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 blah. And they're not noticing. Well, I notice everything. So I'm seeing that. Not only do I notice him taking this stuff, I see the guard at the door noticing him taking that stuff. So I go, Ralph goes through this door and gets his books and then goes on the other side of that door. He's out of this school. So I go and I pick his pockets of all the stuff he's stolen. Right? And most of the stuff I stick back, but a couple of things. The one thing the guy really saw go was that $25 gold pen. And a $25 gold pen in 1969 would be like worth $1,000. It's an expensive thing. And so and it was behind a case, and that's when he saw him do it, because Buzz went into the case and got it. The other stuff he just kind of slid into his pockets. He didn't notice. Anyway, so they go through, and I don't go through the door. And now I know the guard. I know everybody at Duke, because I'm not a preppy, I'm not a jock, I'm not a cracker. I'm a friend to everyone. So I know all of the people who work there, because if you want to, be able to slide through a place, you know the janitor who has the key to everything. You need to know the guard, and, you do little favors for them. Bring them coffee, they bring them a little donut that they like, or this or that, or give them a little advice to tell their kids, So I do that all of the time, because that's how you get through things. You just kind of slide. Anyway, I learned that because I tried to fight the powers. Goes through the door. I'm standing still in the store, and the guy grabs him and said, "You've stolen a pen," and that's a big, and everybody who's with him, all his friends, are like, "Oh my God, he'll get kicked out. The honor code." And so the guy, and he has free carte blanche to search everything Buzz has got. So he's searching them, and he the bags, his pockets, and then the place where he thought he had slipped it. I go, "Hey, Bob." And the guy looks up at me, and I'm holding the gold pen in my hand. Well, I haven't walked through the door, and I hand it to Mary at the cash register and said, "Put that away for me, Mary." And Bob goes, "Oh, Al," and everyone laughs, because that's the kind of stuff I do, right? Didn't break any of the laws. I just kind of, stretch them a little. And I usually stretch them for other people so they don't get the just like I did for Buzz, meaning I made a distraction. Meaning instead of him getting thrown out of school or being blamed, or really, it stopped right there, right? And Ralph went on, and no one said anything for a few weeks, until Ralph and I, we had spring break, and he had no money. And I said, "Ralph, you know what? Everyone's going. Why don't I take you to Joyce Kilner?" And he goes, "Joyce Kilner?" I go, "Yeah. It's a place. It's a beautiful, beautiful, state, federal forest, and we'll camp." "I don't camp." I said, "Well, you will." So we go up there and we camp. And because I worked for these shrinks, they had the best CIA psychotropics going. The best, stuff that you don't even know exists now. Anyway, so we take that stuff and we meld our consciousnesses on this little thing. And that really sealed our best of friendships. And then I made sure that he, that semester was hooked up to all the right people and that he would have a great career at Duke University, would mean he'd have a great life after that. So I'm there, and I indentured myself to everyone at that school. And so for years, I could come back to Duke and stay there because half those professors were still there. They were tenured. Half my friends became tenured professors. And the stuff I did with that other department, I was like well known. And the thing that I was like etched into stone of infamousy, I helped start a thing called Joe College Weekend. And it was not the spring break, but it was like just before graduations. After everyone took their weekends, there was like a 5-day period just before the seniors graduated, and the rest of the school, they could go, but not really, or stick around and not have to do anything, right? And basically party. And so I said, we should have a really big party for everyone. I mean, everyone. And where were we going to do that? Well, they had a big basketball stadium. I could fit like 20, 30,000 people. And they said, who's going to come to that? What music? And I said, well, I used to work at the Phil Maurice. So I called up a few people, and there's this one guy who was the road manager for the Grateful Dead. And I saw that the Grateful Dead had just played in Charlotte, and or was going to play in Charlotte the day before this 5-day weekend, before the seniors graduate. And so I called them up, and I said, so what's your next gig? And they said, well, we got about a week off. And I said, so where are you going? And they said, well, we're kind of heading towards west. And I said, well, that means you're going to go right through Durham. And he goes, yeah, we are. And I said, how would you guys like to play at Duke University for the weekend, Friday and Saturday? And maybe, if you want to play Sunday, and I'll get you in a really nice place, and I'll have it, totally soup to nuts. I might even be able to, do you need to get paid? He goes, not really, whatever, cover our expenses, not a problem. So not only was it the Grateful Dead, but it was also Crosby, Stills and Nash, and the Allman Brothers and Santana. So, I go to the print shop and get some psychedelic posters, and this is about 2 weeks before this is happening. So I cover not only Duke, but UNC, Chapel Hill, which was our cousin. It was just over there, and they were like cousins, and they had the basketball games and the this that they were up against, and so we advertised the heck out of it and charged basically, if you wanted to go inside the arena, you had to, pay $20, but for 2 shows, right? And we give you a little bracelet, right? And so, that when you go to a nightclub, those plastic bracelets. So somebody got that up early, and then it was only $20. It wasn't like a lot of money. So we sold every bracelet we had, but somebody else sold about 100,000 of those bracelets. Counterfeit. They look the same. Anyway, so, instead of having about 15,000 people show up around Thursday, and because we were going to let them camp out on the football field, we had close to 80,000 people. And somebody brought some of that good CIA juice, and everybody and his brother was tripping out of their minds. And everybody and his brother was smoking spliffs. And the police and everybody and his brother was naked having sex on the lawn. It was like Sodom and Gomorrah. Anyway, so they only had like 300 police for the city and the college, and they left. They were like, came to me, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. Here's a bracelet. Take your clothes off. And they left. A few cops did do that, but they left. And that was Joe College Weekend, and it was off the hook. No one got hurt. There wasn't a scratched car or anything, but it was like Sodom and Gomorrah off the freaking hook. And they did that for another 20, 30 years. So if you were to go Google Joe College Weekend, you might see some photos and you might see me running by streaking, you know. I looked a lot better than that at this minute. So I was kind of infamous in Durham and Duke and Chapel Hill and yeah, you saw footage of that show. It was a great show. I mean, it was the best of vibes. All the stars were in the right place. It was just, and it was the same year as Woodstock. This was like just before Woodstock. So anyway, this was like, it loosened everyone up for Woodstock. So what happens was, so that goes down. School closes. The girl leaves. You know, like, where am I going to go next? So I decide I'll go back to New York. You know, it's a big city. I haven't been there for now almost a year and a half. They got, my draft board has to stop be looking for me. Anyway, I got back. I called my brother, and about 5 days after that, I got a certified letter from my draft board that I had to show up and, you know, meet Sergeant so-and-so at Whitehall Street. And I go, oh, okay, well, I can't get out of this one. So I'm thinking about wearing a dress and I said, screw it. I'm just going to go down there and see what they want. So I go down there and they have a gigantic, file on me because everybody's been looking for me. I've been all over the place. It's like, gee, he was just here. He's not here now. So the guy sits back in his chair and he goes, you know, Al, we don't think we can trust you with a gun. I said, what? He said, yeah, we're not going to draft you, but you have to do service. I said, fine. What do you want me to do? He said, we want you to do alternative service. You're going to go work for this new thing called Volunteers in Service to America, you know, VISTA. And I went back down to North Carolina to work at a school. And I knew too many people and I ruffled too many feathers. So they sent me back to New York and I ended up working at Fort Hamilton, which is a VA hospital. And that's a whole nother story. But we took a little divergence to tell you about Duke and that, so I had all these friends at Duke. So when Gary and I got off the bus in Durham and we hitchhiked to Durham, we got a ride straight to there. You know, we just we're just a little bit out of town on 42 heading towards Duke. Somebody stopped. You said, you going up to Duke? I said, yep. So we got in his car, drove us straight there. And we went to the fraternity, right? And I still had friends who, and this is many, many years later, but there's still guys I knew there, still in the fraternity. And, so they, after Joe College Weekend, they never came down from that acid trip. So I go in and wake one of my friends up, and he goes, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm on my way to Florida, and this is my friend Gary, and we're on vacation. He goes, oh, one of your vacations? I said, yeah, one of my vacations. He goes, well, okay. Did you know Bob so-and-so? And I said, I knew his brother. And he goes, yes, lives in Miami, and he's heading there, which is, I wanted to take Gary down to Bahia Honda, which is a national park right on, the water in the Florida Keys. It's kind of right in the middle. Beautiful, beautiful place. And at that time, not many people knew about it. And it had gotten hit by a hurricane, so the facilities weren't super duper. And so I said, okay. So I go and this guy's packing up a van and Gary's kind of nodding out because, he did have a little nap until the college girls got on, and then, he wore himself out. And so I had taken to stay up one of those little pills made out of the mushrooms, and so I was like zipping along, and Gary didn't take one, so he was tired, because we had walked all over D.C., and so we basically. What did we do? Oh, yes, because John was just about to come down, and I thought he was going to, throw me out again. But anyway, so we go to Bob and we get on there, and I'm talking to Zero Up, and he's happy to have somebody to keep him company while he's driving from Durham to Miami. And we're going, and Gary is just conked out in the back of the van. He's asleep. And we're going and going, and we get past Daytona, and he's not going on 95. He's going to go over and kind of go through Orlando because he has to go see somebody. And so, I'm not even, ones that alter your state of consciousness, that kind. Anyway, so, and I chopped him up, if you didn't follow the story, into dust and put him in gelatin caps. So, anyway, we're going along, and Gary says, "Get off of the next exit, get up." We're like, we thought he was asleep. And so, he gets off the next exit, and Gary has been, waving at two pretty girls in a Lincoln Continental convertible. And, yes, exactly. And so, we get off and we talk to the girls, and they say that their daddy has a really nice condo on one of the intercoastals in Orlando. And then they got a lifetime pass to go to whatchamacallit, Disney World, Disneyland, Disney, whatever it is. So sounds good to me. We're on vacation. We can do whatever we want. We grab our duffel bags. We jump in the back of the thing. And again, I get in the front seat and Gary's in the back. And he is like, as soon as the car takes off, he's making out with the girl in the back of the convertible Lincoln. And the girl driving, whose daddy's car it is, she's happy to just have a conversation. She wants kind of a little distraction. So we get to this really high-end condo. It's full of food. I make a really nice dinner, and we're kicking back the booze, and they have their own little supply, and we're having a good old time. And Gary takes that girl back and makes her happy 8 days to Sunday, whereas the girl I am with has just broken up with her boyfriend, and she starts crying on my shoulder. And she's taken one of my little jelly beans, and so she's up for the rest of the night, and and she needs someone to talk to, and I'm very nice to be, that's kind of part of what I do, right? So, I don't put any moves on her, and just, and by the time sunrise up, the world is better for her. She's, that guy's a jerk. I don't have to worry about him anymore. So let's go to Disneyland, and I feel great. And so the two kids, I make breakfast, and the kids drop some jelly beans, and we get in the Lincoln, and we drive to Disneyland. Now the girls look into our duffel bags and see the clothes, and we got all these crazy clothes. So in one of mine, I have a purple drum majorette's outfit, with the epaulette things and a hat with the thing sticking straight up. And Gary has this, because he's a long string bean, he had this, super orange, day-glow orange, jumpsuit that said property of, Memphis, Tennessee Federal Penitentiary. It's like, anyway, so we get in the car, we drive through, and she's got this, super, and she don't even, it's not like a ticket, it's like a pass, and and these people like salute her. So her daddy is, somebody important. So we get in there, and we're running around doing all kinds of stuff, and the girl and Gary, who are just having the best of old times, and they're stealing everything they can that's not nailed down. This girl's like a kleptomaniac, and Gary thinks it slows the fun. We go on this little golf cart, not golf cart, those fast little go-kart racetrack, and Gary runs it off the track and goes up, Main Street, and is running over Mickey Mouse and stuff. I mean, we are just causing havoc. In every ride. And this girl has this pass where people waiting on 6-hour lines. She walks in the front, flashes the pass. We go on the Space Mountain ride, and so we're doing this, and we're going, every place that's dark and somewhat isolated. Gary and this girl are getting it on, And the girl who's with me has given up on the boyfriend, and she is not going hog wild like the girl that's with Gary, but she's becoming amorous, which is what I like. Holding hands, cooing, hugging, a little bit of kissing. That's really where I'm at. That's the kind of guy I am. I can go for the gusto, but I got to get things stoked up, and I like foreplay, and I like taking my time, and I like being at it for like 16 hours because that's why I went to that ashram. Anyway, so we're having a grand old time. And now the girl I'm with is starting to steal everything, right? And she keeps giving me presents. And I go, you don't have to do that. I don't need anything. Come on. And so I have all these leis and all this kind of stuff, crappy trinket shit from Disney World. And so we're at this, Polynesian restaurant and eating my food. And I'm like seeing pink elephants fly through the sky and Mickey Mouse is talking to me through my chop suey. And all of a sudden, this guy kind of grabs me by the shoulder and swings me around. And I look up at his face, and he looks like Frankenstein. I mean, truly horrific face. And I go, no, that's just an illusion. And I go back to my chop suey. And he swings me around, and he flashes me this badge, a golden badge of, the Magic Kingdom with Mickey and Donald in the foreground, with a really stern face, and across it said Disney security. He goes, you guys are under arrest. Come with us. So they take us out, and they put us into a gigantic golf cart that that's made to look like Donald Duck. It has Donald Duck's little hat, his beak out front, and I'm sitting in the front, and I'm looking at a guy with a really messed up face, and I'm just looking at him sideways, who the. And I said, what happened to you? I don't want to talk about it. What happened to your face? Is that, what's up with your face? I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, so, and the girls are crying in the back, and Gary's in a puddle at the floor of the golf cart. And we're driving down, the major thoroughfare of America Land. And this guy pushes a button on the dashboard of Donald Duck, and a door opens on the side of this building, and we drive down. And it's we go deeper and deeper, and it's like a missile silo. I mean, it's got all these colored pipes, and you hear these voices, and everyone's in looks like NASA uniforms, and we're driving around, and it's, like I said, it looks like a military missile silo, and there's some very not nice looking people down there. And we drive up to a building, and it looks like it's a 3-story glass building that you can see everything. And I think I'm just hallucinating this. And we go in, and it actually is a 3-story building. It's like security. They want to be able to see everybody. So they made it all out of translucent plastic, the floors, the ceilings, the walls, everything. So they put us in these little rooms. I get put in a room all by myself. The girls get put in a room by themselves. And Gary's in a room, and he is losing his mind. He's screaming, he's crying, he's scraping at the walls. And so, the guy with a really messed up face comes in, and he wants me to fill out all this information, and all I can say to him is, what happened to your face? And he goes, well, you telling me this time? I said, yes. He goes, and I had really long hair, to the mid, this is 1969, and I'd been working at the Fillmore East, and I was a flower child. I wasn't a hippie. Hippies were people who shot heroin in their hip. So this guy tells me the story that he was, in the Marine Corps. He was in the FBI. He was in the NSA, and then he retired to Florida with his family and his son. It went to theology school to be a Catholic priest, and I said, "Oh, I was going to be one of those." And then he quit and went to college and was, a Mormon and studying theology, and had really long hair. And this guy was losing his shit over his kid. And they were trying, his wife wanted them to get it back together. So she sent him off on a little fishing trip with his little bass boat. And as they were putting the bass boat in the water, they were having an argument, and the cable snapped and went around the guy's face and put lines, and that's why his face was, I mean, he was messed up. And because of the jelly beans, I saw the lines of his energetics swirling around his face in those scars. So, and he goes, he's just like you, but he's my son and you're not, and I'm going to really mess up your life. And I'm going, oh, that's nice. So he opens my little medicine bag, and he's shaking all the canisters, and he's opening them up, and, it's got all these powdery things, and he goes, and he takes them away, and I'm sitting there, and I'm watching Gary really lose his shit, and the girls crying, wringing their hands, and this guy, really nicely dressed, comes in, talks to the girls, and they kind of calm down, not a problem. So he comes out, I see him come around to me, and this guy is dressed in a nice suit. He is obviously the man in charge. And he actually says, well, Al, and he doesn't call me Al Dalpo or my Italian name or anything, or makes any cracks about it, because a lot of people at that time would make cracks about, being Italian, because being Italian in the 60s was like being Mexican today. Not as bad, because if you were Italian in 1919, when my dad was a teenager, you would get the same thing. Actually, they treated you like you were worse than a Muslim and a Mexican. So, anyway, he's talking very nice to me. And he takes out my little, canisters, and he's got little envelopes with the substance of my little canisters in them. And I'm looking at them, and I can see that each of those envelopes has written on it the either botanical or chemical name of what that substance was. And I mean, I'm going, whoa. And it's only been like half an hour, meaning they needed a spectrometer there to get this information. Because, they'd have to have somebody who knew what to do and how to do it. And they did it in less than a half an hour. So he's like saying, well, here's all your stuff. And all of these things, they're fine. You can buy them in an herb store. But this right here, what is this? I said, oh, that's tannis root. I got this problem with my lungs. He goes, tannis root, really? Well, you have a choice here. And I go, I have a choice? He goes, oh, yes, you got a choice. And I go, what's that? And he goes, you can leave this canister with me, and we will just escort you and the girls off the property. Or you can keep that canister, and we will escort the girls back to their Lincoln Continental, and you and your friend will meet the Florida Highway Patrol. I had the choice. I said, I'll take the first one. And he goes, fine. I kind of slid that over to him, and he goes, okay, let's go get your friend. And he says, you go in there, and he goes, here, you should give him this cup of tea. And I said, what's in it? And, it's like sodium, something to really mellow his ass, Thorazine or, And I said, okay. And you tell him that it was just something from your little tea stash, and that he'll feel better. And I said, okay, sounds like a good idea to me. Because Gary was like, and so I went into Gary. He goes, are you real, Al? Is that really you? I said, yes, it's really me. He said, what's going to happen? Are we going to go to hell? Are we in hell? I see demons. I see hell. I said, Gary, just have this cup of tea. I said, back. I said, now breathe. Remember how I showed you how to meditate? We're going to sit here and meditate a little bit. Right, so anyway, he comes down pretty quick, 10, 15 minutes. The guy comes by, knocks on the door. He escort, we don't see the Frankenstein guy anymore. And the guy in the suit and, two other kind of plain clothes guys with a thing in the ear and the mirror and the sunglasses. And anyway, we all get into, a golf cart that looks like a Rolls Royce and not Daffy Duck. And so we're going through all of the missile silo. And we come to a place, he pushes a button, and we pop out, not in the park, but in the parking lot. And right next to the girls' Lincoln Continental. So we all are getting out, and the guy puts his hand on my arm and goes, you and Gary are not getting out here. The girls are going off on their own. And so you know, the girls are like getting a little upset. Why don't get the boys go? You know, and the guys in the cheap suits are escorting them to the Lincoln Continental. And the guy goes, "Listen, that girl there who really likes you, her father is a Florida senator. Not state, D.C. senator. That's why she had that pass. That's why she had the pull. That's why we didn't come after you, until you guys just went, hog wild. If you'd just kind of been somewhat disruptive, and the outfit you were wearing, we just couldn't let that go. And so we're just going to let them go off on their own, and then we're just going to escort you off to a county road in the back, and you can hitchhike out of here." And we go, "Okay, that's okay." So the girls drive off, and they're like waving, and they take us in 180 degrees the other way, and we drive, and we drive, and we drive, and we drive. We're like in other counties, and they get to a fence. They unlock the lock, they open it up, and they put us out on a county road, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. And it's about 2 in the afternoon, and the guy goes, "Good luck," and closes the door, locks it up, and we can't even get. It's like 14 feet high with razor wire on top. It's like Auschwitz up there. So, and it's like not even a paved county road. It's like gravel. So we decide which way is south, which way is So we start. It's really only 2 ways to go. So whatever direction, we went to the opposite direction than what we had come. So we're going down, and we're a few miles, and a pickup truck with a big, a real cracker boy, and he's got a Ku Klux Klan outfit in the back, and a gun rack with shotguns and machine guns, and a stars and bar, big flag fluttering, and he stops and he goes. And we both have really long hair, and Gary's wearing the orange jumpsuit, and I'm wearing a purple drum majoress outfit. He goes, "Where are you boys from? You're not from here." And before we can open our mouths, he goes, "We don't like your type." We didn't even tell him where we were from. We don't like your type. Did you ever see that movie Easy Rider? I had. Gary had, luckily. And he goes, "That's what's going to happen to you if you're here when the sun goes down." So, we start walking fast. And about 40 minutes later, he drives by, doesn't stop me, but he hits his horn. And Gary's starting to worry. He goes, "What does that all mean?" I said, "We're just going to get out of here." And nobody will stop for us. And this guy's, he slows down. "Remember, sundown, Easy Rider." And Gary started, completely. And the sun hasn't quite go down. Big wall, and I know that's south of west because that's the way the sun's going down. That's south, and he's going to go south of the east. So I'm almost running down, looking for someplace to hide. But it's just, and I don't know if you've ever been in southern Florida, it's just flat and no trees. And anyway, so and it's like near the wet, it's scrub. We're gonna be dead. And all of a sudden, coming from the west through the sun, is this vehicle, and I get this, and it is a Volkswagen Combi, like the van, the hippie van. And they pull up to us, and they got the P symbol painted on it. And this girl goes, "Do you know how to get to the keys?" And we just jumped in and said, "Girls, that was want to be part of it." Look who's here.
Jimmy.
Look who's here.
It's Jimmy.
Hey, get in the shot.
Hi.
Get in the shot.
Hey, how's it going? It's Jimmy. You're commenting. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. I was just finishing up on a story.
Wow.
So how did that looks pretty good, the tie-dye.
Yeah.
It's definitely not tie-dye. The pattern.
Clothes.
The pattern.
I painted my shoes again.
Ooh.
Painted my shoes.
Here, bring the shoes over. Show the audience.
Here, see? Oh, whoa. Oh my gosh, what did you do? Hi. Hey.
Anyway, I'll end the story with we made it down to Bahia Honda. We spent a month there having a good time, and we went back to New York. And Gary Blue never tried to commit suicide ever again. You know, he and so I've known him. I still know him, and every time last time I saw him,
Shaved your head.
yeah, about a week ago.
You shaved your head.
Yeah, it's my spring look, but for the winter. Meaning we were going to head for California, so I thought my head would be warm. So I trimmed myself up so I wouldn't look like the mountain crazy man. But anyway,
It looks like you have a godly Jewish yarmulke on the back of your head on my video.
okay.
There's a godly Jewish yarmulke on.
Well, I was almost a rainbow. I'm not a rainbow. I was almost a rabbi, but that's another story.
You were?
Yeah, I went to a yeshiva.
What?
Yep. My landlord, he wanted me to be a rabbi. I told him, listen, I'm Italian, I'm Irish, I'm German, I'm a little Cherokee, and Roman Catholic. And my rabbi mentor said, well, no one's perfect. And he said, we're the Hasidim. We're like the Baptist of the Jews. We'll take anybody.
This is going to be cool.
So.
This is going to be cool. This is going to be amazing.
What's going to be amazing?
My giant selfie stick.
Yeah.
I have a giant selfie stick.
Yep.
Where'd I put it?
It's right over there. You leaned it against over there, near the kitchen door. Oh, you moved it upstairs. Anyway, so I've known Gary, I still know Gary. And last time I saw him last time I was in New York City was 2011. So that was the last time I saw all my old friends. But I still, they call me up, I call them up. I had this phone number for almost 20-something years. So anyway, last time I saw Gary, he had gotten married. He had kids who were like going to get married. And he took us out to a really nice restaurant and told this story to them. He didn't have me tell it, he told it. Then he said, kids, the reason you're alive is this guy. I would have probably killed myself if I hadn't taken that vacation. Because once we got back to New York, I realized that life was worth living. That life was good. And his face was messed up worse than the FBI guy who had his face messed up by, the cable. I mean, Gary's face was like hideous. And